Shadows in the Smoke is intended for mature audiences and may contain material that some people find disturbing. Please see the episode description for content warnings and listen with care.
Morning, hunters. It's a brand new day in London and a brand new day phase. Some time has passed since you all visited the exhibit and dealt with Sally No Face, who turned out to be Vittorio Clemenza in disguise. His soul trapped in a mannequin that is now in the rooms of Mr. Lloyd. Very interesting to see the ramifications of that.
That's punk rock as hell.
The first thing that I do at the top of the day phase is introduce a brand new threat if you have fewer than 3. This threat is called the Creature of Cremorne Gardens. The Illustrated Police News, a tabloid notorious for carrying salacious, blood-curdling tales of dubious provenance, has lately been carrying stories about the so-called Creature of Cremorne Gardens, sometimes called the Creature of Chelsea Harbor, and, more rarely, the Creature of Chain Walk. The creature, described as a, quote, fish-like thing, or fish man, has been terrorizing pleasure seekers from the shadows, giving a fright when glimpsed skulking about, but rarely making direct contact. Men and women alike have been lured to the end of a nearby pier by a strange song while promenading, though with no memory of how they got there once the song's spell ended. All of this could easily be chalked up to hysteria, or perhaps some elaborate hoax by someone who resents Cremorne Gardens, if not for a physical attack upon a young couple, Simon Piedmont and Beulah Thrum. Mr. Piedmont and Miss Thrum described how the creature leapt at them from a crouched position like a cat and tore at Ms. Thrum's coat. Scotland Yard is investigating. I now get to direct a question to a hunter of my choice. I would like to ask this of Mr. John. Mr. John, you have a connection to Thomas Simpson, the proprietor of Cremorne Gardens, having worked there one summer. What was your job and what did you do to lose it? So let me tell you about Cremorne Gardens, just as a little backstory. Cremorne Gardens was an actual place. It has long since been closed. I think all that remains now is just like a plaque that denotes the location where it once was. Cremorne Gardens and many other gardens like it were quite popular in Victorian era. They are kind of like early theme parks. No like rides or attractions, but like a lot of like really beautiful gardens and dancing platforms. It has a location known as the American Bowling Saloon, as well as places to dine and a famous hedge maze.
Thomas Simpson hired me to set up pins at the American Bowling Saloon. He thought it would be a real catch to have an authentic American setting up the pins. Which weren't the best job I never did, but weren't the worst neither by a long shot. However, one of these bowlers I saw accosting a young lady who was less than interested in him, so I took one of those bowling pins in the midst of resetting it, and I struck him in the jaw so hard that it is set off to the side, which I thought was fair play, but Mr. Simpson does have a business to run.
There are 3 questions associated with the Creature of Cremorne Gardens. I'm only going to tell you the first one right now, though. We have what is called a threshold question. You must answer this question first, and then depending on how it is answered, it will then unlock one of 2 additional questions.
Oh, word. I love this game.
The first question for the creature of Cromorn Gardens is simply, is the creature real or is it a hoax? And that is a complexity 4. Depending on how you choose to answer that, if the creature is real, that unlocks its own resolution question. And if it's a hoax, it unlocks a question of its own. Threshold questions are unique in the between because let's say you decide that the creature is real, dice hit the table, and that is a miss. You do not get an opportunity to answer the question again. Instead, the opposite conclusion is true. The creature is a hoax, and we move on to the next level of questions.
All right.
That's kind of cool.
That's
like
fun.
that.
The creature of Cromorn Gardens also has a unique mask associated with it. This mask is called the Mask of Revelry.
Sick. We're going to be best friends. No one can take this away from me, please.
I also want to mention to Miss Douglas that you might perhaps know or maybe have heard that Cromorn Gardens is famous for having an enormous dancing platform, perhaps the biggest in London right now.
She's doomed. It's a trap set special for her.
I can't stay away.
Hey, there's a mystical sea creature and dancing. Have fun.
So the day is yours to do with as you please. We have 2 threats that we're working on right now, that being the creature of Cromorn Gardens as well as the demon of Kilburn Abbey. Some of you also have a couple conditions that you must contend with, but I will pass control over to you. What is it that you wish to do today?
Let's have a breakfast table scene to just talk a few things out before we break up and go our separate ways.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I'll come in clutching the illustrated police news. Say, normally I think the tabloids are just that, and they're showing us things of fancy, but they've let us write once or twice towards something more supernatural. This one I can't make heads or tails of. It might be the genuine article, but also might just be somebody causing trouble, or the fancies of a bored writer.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, if you ask me, sea creatures are around, not that I would know anything about it, but it's just, I'd like to think that we shouldn't mistrust creatures when they present themselves to us.
I'm not saying we should mistrust the intent of the creature. I'm mistrusting whether or not it's a creature at all. There's foundation for it. I mean, I ain't a well-educated man by no stretch of the imagination, but something in this story smacks of the sirens in old Greek mythology, with the singing and what.
I think at this point, Ina is just now coming downstairs. Her hair is just kind of like all over the place. She's just in like a loose dressing gown. And she takes the illustrated police news out of Mr. John's hand and looks at it. Sirens? I know a bit about those.
Not the least bit surprised you're well-read in the classics, Miss Thanero. And I think you also notice when you descend the stairs, whether or not you've noticed this before, but Mr. John does stand when you enter, which he does not usually do.
I love that.
I'm clutching my pearls.
Oh my God, my pearls.
I think Maisie sees that and also stands and is like, yes, no, this is what we do.
And I think in this moment, Ina kind of looks at both of them and like just raises an eyebrow and then like taps Mr. John with the paper and walks over to where the coffee is to get the cup, because whatever is happening here, whatever this is this morning, she needs some caffeine in order to deal with it. But she's still got the paper and she's looking at the article.
So I think Morgan comes into the room last, as usual.
No one stands for him.
No one stands for him.
Well, we're already standing.
As a matter of fact, Mr. John sits when Rabbit enters.
So yeah, I think Rabbit also, like, wordlessly just sort of goes down, sits at the table, grabs a cup of tea, probably, and starts sipping on that while he takes the paper from Miss Thanero and starts reading it himself. Is this, what we're after today?
Personally, I think we got a lot on our plate. I've been following some leads about that girl with the church, and I'd like to stick to that myself.
I did make a promise that I would, visit our friend at the morgue and, do a little bit of my work there.
I rather think I'm gonna go down to Cromorn Gardens and see what's afoot.
Wish I could accompany you there, Miss Douglas, but I don't think I should be showing this mug around them parts.
Well, Maisie love, I can definitely come along with you, seeing as I have some familiarity with this type of creature.
Lovely.
Just, before we all, split up and go our separate ways, I wanted to mention something. At the party? Is that what we're calling it? The other night?
It was a party, for sure.
It was definitely a party.
I know that I was meant to be the bait and didn't exactly end up that way, but there was maybe someone who was paying some attention to the blue pocket square you gave me. A woman, all in blue, seemed to radiate power, confidence.
I noticed you talking to her, but she didn't seem like anything threatening to me.
To me, she looked like a deep pool. Might seem calm and safe on the surface, but you never know what's lurking underneath.
Well, Rabbit, I do remember noticing when you were talking with her, she looked remarkably like the woman outside of the modiste in that absolutely incredible carriage. And she had that same sapphire blue on, and she picked up a gown from the modiste, and I believe it might have been the one she was wearing.
Well, that means 2 connections to the late Mr. Clemenza. So maybe that in and of itself is enough reason to keep an eye out for her.
Do you think she was also investigating?
Maybe. I mean, Hargrave is always recruiting is my understanding, so maybe we have another ally coming up. She also said some things made me think she knows a bit more than she had any right to. Maybe even knew who we were after that night.
Well, I think a woman of her status, if she knew who we were after, she's likely no friend of Hargrave House's.
But she didn't do anything to stop us.
That's also true.
Something to keep an eye on, I think, for now. But until the snake starts rattling its tail, best to give it a wide berth.
Right, well, be on my way.
Oh, wait, Maisie, I've got to go change. I'm not nearly dressed and ready to
wait.
go out yet.
So Maisie kind of looks, because she only has a gift for Ina and not for anyone else. She's like, can I follow you? Maybe, and just help you choose what to wear.
Of course, love.
And Maisie follows Ina to her room, and I'll let you describe, if you want to, what you're dressing in.
I would also love to hear a description of the rooms of Miss Thanero. We have mentioned the large bathtub.
Yes, there is the large white marble bathtub in there. As they go upstairs and leave the boys at the table, she opens her door, and I think it is very fair to say that her rooms are by far the most ornate and largest that Hargrave House has to offer. Inside, we see on the windows, there's like a large bay window that's rounded, and every window and hanging from most of the points in the room, you see these flowing white semi-sheer curtains, and the room is just elegantly draped with these. So it's very light, kind of in contrast to who she normally is. It's like she's trying to find something opposite of who she is and who she's become with this lighter kind of design. The room is huge. There's a large headboard that is appointed with curling olive branches in gold, but it's a white headboard. All of the fabric on the bed is very luxurious, but also not heavy. Everything in the room feels lifted. As they walk in, there's kind of a sitting area, and then there's the bedroom, the bathroom, and then this huge bay window that adds in a great deal of light to the room. And then she walks off into where her immaculate collection of clothing is, and then just starts getting dressed in that room.
Maisie sort of sits in the little seating area, giving Ina her privacy while she's changing, calls out to her. So, Ina, I was really touched by the fabric that you got for me from Vittorio's. May he rest in peace or not. I don't know.
I don't know exactly that he's resting, dear, if he's in Rabbit's chambers.
Right, yeah. That's why I'm not sure what to say. Hopefully he's not, I don't know, uncomfortable. It doesn't seem like it'd be very comfortable. This is not about him. Strangely enough, I went to Vittorio right before this happened, before we knew that he was Sally No Face. And I asked him to help me with a little gift for you. And so I wanted to give that to you, but please do not tell Mr. John or Mr. Lloyd, because I did not get them anything. And I feel it would be rude.
I think Ina just kind of still in a state of undress and getting dressed, because obviously it's Victorian fashion. It takes a second to do. Pokes her head around and gives Maisie a wink. Your secret is safe with me, dear. Give me just a moment.
Right. Of course.
While the dressing is happening, I think Ina just calls out, "How was your swim the other night?"
Oh, it was nice. It was, it's been a while since I've been in the water, in full form. Having the pelt fixed a little bit, even by Vittorio, was better, than it's been in a very long time. And I felt probably happier than I have in a very long time to be swimming, even though the Thames is quite gross. And then to have Sally No Face throw an invitation at me, and it was all very stressful, and Mr. Lloyd was talking to the river, but I was in the river, and I don't know. It was weird. But it was a little bit like going back home. So it was good.
Ina comes around the corner, dressed at this point. Well, my love, I think we definitely need to find you some better waters to swim in, don't you think?
I would hope so. Hopefully going to Cremorne Gardens today, being near the harbor, might be a little bit nicer. But anyway, I wanted to give you this. And she produces a string of pearls that is threaded with gold thread that's very similar to like the cords that she's seen Ina wearing before. And it's sort of like the way that Ina drapes like those cords like around her shoulder, the pearl chain is like long enough to do that as well. And it sort of has like a chandelier effect where there's like tiers of it dangling. And she says, I went fishing for these, so they are the real deal. And back home, when we want to thank someone and show them how loved they are, I like to give people pearls. Maisie sort of derived from the word for pearl, and it's sort of my namesake. So I just wanted to give you these to tell you that I like you, and I like being around you, and you make me feel better and safe. And I, at the same time that I had this, I also had this made. And she holds up her wrist, and it's just like a very simple chain of pearls that is in the same style as the one that she gives Ina.
Ina's holding a pair of gloves, and she just sets them down and walks over to Maisie and takes these pearls in her hands and runs her fingers over them. This is probably the first time in a long time that Ina has received a gift just for the sake of it being gifted, of it being given. And I think she just runs her hands over them and is just like very quiet and still for a moment. Maisie, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. I don't think I've received anything so fine in a very, very long time. Would you help me put them on?
Of course. And she takes the pearl chain and sort of drapes it over your shoulder and places it delicately, like adjusting it so it's hanging exactly right.
There is a large mirror, and Ina goes over and takes Maisie with her to the mirror and is just looking at them. And then I think she reaches down and looks at Maisie's bracelet and just like takes her hand for a moment. And then looks her in the eye and says, I will always protect you, my little pearl.
Thank you, Ina. I will do the same to the best of my ability.
That was so beautiful. Hunters, I would love to know how you're spending the rest of your day.
Well, I think Maisie and I are going to go and do some work toward the creature of Cremorne Gardens, since we've got this siren-like song that Ina would have some familiarity with, and obviously Maisie is very keen to be near anything that has to do with the water.
She read fish-like thing and said sign me up.
Put me in, coach.
All right, so the ladies are off to Cremorne Gardens. Mr. Lloyd, what about you?
I'm going to go visit Bartholomew Gastrell because I told him that I would help him. Sanctify might not be quite the right word, but at least prevent the evil that seems to be oozing from the corpse in his morgue.
Fantastic. And Mr. John, what about you?
Despite the plans I told everybody at breakfast, I would actually like to go do a little indulgence of my vice in the dark and seedy underbelly of London to clear a condition, if I may. I would like to go to Limehouse, which, if I understand correctly from my notes, is Victorian London's Chinatown. And then if there's time, I'd like to do a little shopping on my way home.
Let's begin with Mr. Lloyd.
Morgan walks his long way down to the mortuary, and as he's walking that way, he keeps glancing to the sides as though he sees some movement or something following him. And the audience could almost see just glimpses in the background of just flashes of black movement, dark movements somewhere in the shadows in the alleyways of the London streets as he walks down there. And when he gets there, this time he's not going to pretend to be something he's not, but rather the representative of Hargrave House and the member of the cunning folk that he is. Rabbit will knock on the door and try and get Bartholomew's attention.
Mr. Lloyd, you knock, and there is no response, but the door does fall open.
He walks in, somewhat cautiously, and not quite yelling, but in a louder tone of voice than normal. Hello? Bartholomew?
Mr. Lloyd, as you enter, you hear that familiar music being played in the mortuary, but the lights are low. There are candles dotting the floors and tables of this mortuary. and you hear a man whispering.
Are the whispers saying anything coherent, or is it just sort of the susurration?
You hear a man's voice that you recognize to be Mr. Gastrell, whispering, saying, "Now there we are. Aren't you a pretty thing? Yes, I think this will do very nicely. Oh, yes, I do very much love this color. I'm so glad that you agree. Yes, I do think that pink is indeed your color, miss."
Rabbit clears his throat in an attempt to not catch Bartholomew doing something that he'd maybe not like to get caught in. Mr. Gastrell, it's Rabbit from Hargrave House. I said I might be coming by.
Oh, yes, please, do come in, Mr. Lloyd.
I walk into the room where he is doing whatever it is he's doing.
You walk in and you see a delicate little tea service laid out on one of the mortuary tables. Bartholomew Gastrell is seated on a chair next to this table, and seated there as well on another chair is the body of the girl, dressed in a beautiful pink frock. It appears as though her skin has been delicately painted with some touches of makeup, a bit of blush on the cheeks. Her hair has been neatly combed and tied with a bow.
Sorry, hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Oh no, please do pull up a chair.
Wonderful. You mentioned that you were having issues with. I was hoping to help make this place a little safer for both you and the little lady over there.
I assure you, Mr. Lloyd, thank you so much for checking back in on us, but any problems I was experiencing have passed, yes. We have made quite a charming little home here, haven't we? Me and the young lady. A delightful presence and quite the charming conversationalist, if you know how to listen. Would you care for a scone?
Morgan isn't spooked by this, but he is wary. So I think I'd like to look around and just see if I sense anything wrong, other than the obvious, this is a man having a tea party with a corpse. If there is maybe something behind this, or if it's just sheer madness.
Mr. Lloyd, I will say that as you are looking about the mortuary and looking at the food, all of the little cakes have a slight undercurrent of sulfur.
No, I'm not exactly hungry, just came from breakfast.
Pity, more for us then.
I'm not exactly a doctor, but would you mind if I took a look at the young lady and just made sure she was feeling all right?
I don't wish to stand in the way of your work, Mr. Lloyd, but I pray you do it quickly. We do have sandwiches next.
Spooked by the sulfur, all the candles sitting around. This reeks of magic, whether knowingly or not. So I think Morgan is going to try and figure out if there is something magical going on here, and if so, what. But literally looking at the corpse as the way a healer or a doctor would look at a patient they were checking out. So feeling her pulse, looking at her eyes, all that sort of stuff. But in the meanwhile, just really looking for some sign of active magic.
Mr. Lloyd, please make the information move with sensitivity. I think I would like to put this at disadvantage because some people are beyond saving.
That is a 6.
Magnificent. Let's go somewhere a little nicer, shall we? Let's go to Cremorne Gardens. Miss Thanero and Miss Douglas off to Cremorne Gardens. Now, Miss Thanero, we got like a little hint of it in your earlier scene in your living quarters, but I need the full fit check, please. What are you wearing today?
Ina is wearing some storm gray moire silk that kind of has like a shimmery, like moonlight on the ocean waves kind of vibe. The gown itself is not structured from crinoline, but it actually has hidden brass corsetry. So it's like armor today, but disguised as fashion. Some black organza floats over the silhouette, and it's embroidered with what seems like Victorian filigree until you look a little bit closer, and then you'll see some little small owls in there instead. We have some deep indigo velvet, courtesy of our dearly entombed Vittorio Clemenza, peeking out from beneath it, trimmed with silver olive branches curling at the hem. At her throat, we have a cameo that bears a striking resemblance to Aegis carved in stone, while oxblood gloves conceal her arms. She wears a fascinator of raven feathers and carries a fan of olive wood and lace that is hiding lines of Homer. And her black boots are adorned with brass soles, each step ringing out on the pavement.
Lovely. So, Miss Douglas and Miss Thanero, where about in Cremorne Gardens or around Cremorne Gardens are you going today? There are many lovely attractions to take part in. There is the dancing platform, of course. There is the American Bowling Saloon, the place that once employed a Mr. John. The banqueting hall. There is the promenade where you can walk along the water and by the gardens. The hedge maze, of course, and then there is the neighborhood that is right outside of Cremorne Gardens, that being Chain Walk.
Maisie wants to go to the promenade that's by the water.
Fantastic. Miss Thanero, are you accompanying her?
Yes, I believe I will.
Off to the promenade, the two of you go. This is like a lovely little paved walk along the gardens. It's walking by the water. The two of you are passing by well-manicured lawns, very neatly ordered flower beds that are near large, ancient, beautiful trees. I have a paint the scene for everyone here. You see something truly beautiful along the promenade. What is it?
I think specifically for Maisie, she just sees the sunlight dancing on the ocean waves and the little white crests as the ocean crashes on itself as it moves towards shore, and that is beautiful to her.
The railing along the promenade is done with this intricate bronze statue work of prancing dolphins, waves, flipping seals, and otters. So if you were to see it as a giant statue, it would be a more impressive piece to the less careful eye. But if you really take the time to appreciate that each one of these creatures was made by hand along its entire length, though it is simple, it is beautiful.
I think on a little knoll that's like next to this walkway, we see a father and a daughter with little wooden swords, like sword fighting. And the little girl is just laughing, and you see her like run her father through, and he dies very dramatically, and then like gets up and gives her like a big hug. And it's just this really beautiful, empowering moment of both like an interesting contrast of like femininity and masculinity.
And there are several topiaries grown into the shapes of various circus animals, lions, elephants, and whatnot. And while they are mostly made of this hardy evergreen bush, there are these small white flowers all over them that give just the most beautiful perfume in the area.
Beautiful. The two of you are walking. It is quite bright. It's a beautiful sunny day. On either side of the promenade, there are lovely wrought iron gas lamps with emerald green glass globes that are not lit right now, but the globes themselves are held aloft by statues of Greek gods: Artemis, Aphrodite, Athena.
Maisie takes a second to take in the beauty of this place and smell like the fresh, salty air. And then she marches all the way down to the end of the boardwalk and sort of just like leans over the railing. And he's like, "Hello, fishman, are you there? Ina, he doesn't want to talk to me. What do I do?"
Well, love, I think these types of creatures might not be too keen on conversation at this time of the day when there are so many people about.
Do you think if I climbed down, would that be better? If I got like over the railing and I went down into the water, would he talk to me then?
I think Ina is like slightly taken aback by this question and is just kind of like looking at Maisie like, do I let her be a child right now and have her moment of fun, or do I say, no, we can't do that in polite London society? Love, are you planning to change forms, or do you just want to...
Oh, no. I just want to go talk to him. I mean, he would be like more connected if I was, but I know that is really not the time and the place for that. But I just...
Well, he might also not be here. He could be off enjoying the water, the afternoon, planning whatever he's planning to do next. Are we 100% sure that this is where his home is? Like, does he live...
Well, he is a fish man. He lives in the water, does he not?
Yes, but the water's a large place, Maisie.
Well, I know that.
He might not live specifically under the pier. He could be off on a rock somewhere. We don't know. Listen, I don't want to get in the way of you having a nice time, so if you want to climb down and try, I will support you in doing so.
All right, I'm doing it. She starts climbing over the railing.
And Ina, I think, just like walks up and puts her hands on the railing and is just like leaning over, just waiting to see what happens. Like, we're just going to observe.
All
right, Miss Douglas. I love this very much. This sounds like an information move to me with vitality as you're clambering over this railing and down into the water. I am going to invoke your condition Defiant here.
This seems really right for that.
Yeah.
So this will be made with disadvantage.
Let's do it. God, please. Ah, that's a 5.
Mr. John, so tell me what it is you are getting up to in Limehouse.
Just because it's the morning doesn't mean you can't have a carnal encounter. And Mr. John is familiar with a woman who works at one of these, like, vaudevillian burlesque singing houses, and is seeking her out specifically to learn a makeup technique to cover his scar that is on his face that he incurred at the hands of this demon. I'm going to go make my way backstage before the show and pay my respects to one of the girls in the chorus. Just kind of take the edge off.
Do you have a name of this girl?
Her name is Philomena Fu.
We find you going through the stage door into this little ratty theater. It is crowded with young women going to and fro in various stages of undress, gossiping, and giggling. There are big burly stagehands that are pulling ropes and arranging bits of scenery. A very frazzled costume mistress trying to frantically pin together garments moments before the show is about to begin. And you lock eyes with one Miss Philomena Fu. She is a young Chinese girl. She is currently dressed in bloomers and a corset and not much else.
Howdy, Mina. Figured I'd catch you before you got all the way dressed up.
Girls, this is the gentleman I was telling you about, one Mr. John. Hello, sir. Are you coming to the show today?
Thought I might catch a matinee, yeah, but I wanted to see if I could sneak a little conversation with you beforehand.
Well, I do have to get ready, sir. But yes, I think we can find some time, if you'll excuse me, ladies. And she's like frantically pushing the other chorus girls out of this cramped dressing room. They're all like grabbing the last little bits of their costume piece so they can keep getting ready in the hall.
Goes against my better nature, Mina, but I can make this quick for you.
So, what is it I can do for you, sir?
You may notice I'm not going to be passing any auditions anytime soon with this trough cut in the side of my cheek here.
Oh, you poor dear. And she goes and runs one of her slender fingers along.
It still smarts a little.
How did you acquire such a thing?
I made a fool's mistake and went back to church.
Well, now you've entered the real holy place, the theater.
Yes, holy place is exactly what I was hoping to find coming backstage here.
Well, I bid you, sir, worship.
And I very delicately undo the ties of her corset and let it just kind of fall to the floor. I think we see the mirror with the vanity bulbs around it. And this is the cheap Turnham and Burnham kind of theater. Girls are coming in and going out all the time. But the most permanent piece of it is this mirror. And we see her back as the corset falls to the ground and an animalistic grin spread over John's face.
Go ahead and roll as cruel as the harlot's curse, please.
4 and 6 is 10, plus 2 vitality is 12.
So on a hit, you can clear a condition, and on a 10+, you may choose 2 from the list below. You don't draw any unwanted attention. You befriend a side character. You gain some mastery over your curse. On your next quickening roll, increase the success tier by 1 step, or you stumble upon a clue.
I would love to befriend a side character. I'm also like, I don't know, I got masks to burn, so I'm not worried about the next quickening roll. I'm not really investigating our mystery, though, so I don't think I need to do a clue. I will avoid unwanted attention.
Fantastic. And on a 12+, you get to take a memento from this encounter. Ask another hunter what it is, and then put it in your personal quarters.
I would love to ask Rabbit what that memento is.
I think Miss Fu has a daguerreotype of herself in the dressing room that you pocket.
I love that.
As do I.
Let's go back to the mortuary. Mr. Lloyd, you draw close to the corpse of this girl, and you start to hear this very small voice whispering at you in that little place behind your eyes, whispering knowingly Tell me, of what does it speak?
Is it trying to tempt me or threaten me?
It's trying to tempt you.
Rabbit hears talks of all the pain of the mortal world, the hunger, the suffering, and he hears a promise to help him escape it, to go to a place where he will not have to deal with all the hardships that he has had to deal with in his life, and be able to rest.
The voice of the girl continues. Lie back, Morgan. Rest easy. I will take away all of your pain. And you feel this presence, these fingertips grasping your wrists, gently tracing a line up your arm, up to your throat, to your lips. I think this is going to be a night move to resist the demon trying to possess you.
A night move with what?
I suppose that's a question for you as to how you are trying to fend off this demon's advances.
Rabbit reaches into his pocket where there's a cracked silver hand mirror and attempts to break the line of energy that the demon is putting through him with this mirror and direct it back into the corpse.
All right, so this sounds like it's going to be a night move with sensitivity, with advantage, since you are invoking your silver hand mirror. What are you afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve here?
Rabbit is afraid that the magic that he is trying to invoke in this moment will backfire upon him, and the demon will take control of him, and he will be inside the mirror.
Mr. Lloyd, it's worse than that. The demon will carry you with him, tucked in a little pocket, as the demon wearing your face walks to the local convent and slaughters all of the nuns inside.
That is a 9.
I'd like to go back to Cremorne Gardens. Miss Thanero, you just watched Miss Douglas hop the railing, scale down the little rocky, sandy shore of the harbor, and go into the water. And immediately you hear a voice call out, Miss, I would beg you to get out of the water, please. Public bathing is not permitted within the grounds of Cremorne Gardens.
I'm not bathing. Still wearing all of my clothes.
And I just turn around and go, does it look like she's bathing?
Miss Thanero, you see a man wearing a spotless tweed coat. He has a very tidy mustache. As he is approaching you, he is tucking a pipe into his pocket. Madam, I charge you, please tell your ward to get herself out of the harbor.
On what authority do you tell me to do this?
He produces a badge. On the Queen's authority, madam. You are talking to one Detective Inspector Pettigrew.
Ina leans back, looks at him very slowly, condescendingly, just up and down. And I suppose I'm just supposed to bend over and defer to you, am I?
In matters of public safety, madam. Yes.
Does it appear that my ward is drowning, sir?
Well, she is causing a disturbance, madam.
You're causing a disturbance to me.
I would beg you to keep your mouth shut, dear.
All right, you can beg.
Ina turns and makes eye contact with Maisie and just tilts her head a little bit to get her to come out of the water. I suppose we can get her to come on shore, but I hardly think she's disturbing anyone. She's simply playing in the water.
The last thing I need is that god-awful paper telling story of a young woman throwing herself off into the water, giving more fuel to this creature nonsense.
Right, sir. See, I'm trying to help you resolve that issue, actually. I'm investigating currently as we speak.
Are you, miss? And on whose grounds?
Mine?
And who are you?
Why do you care?
I care because it is my business to care.
To care who goes in the water?
The details are what matter here, miss. The details of this supposed creature, the details of who goes about these gardens, the details of who is purporting to investigate this matter. Who are you, madam, and what outfit are you with?
My name is Sally McIntyre, and I've just taken it upon myself to do your job, clearly, since you don't seem to be doing it. You know, people be taken by a fish person. I don't see any of you getting in the water to find the fish person, so...
Wait. He looks at you, Miss Thanero. I do think I know you.
Oh, do you, sir?
Hargrave House.
And what if we are from Hargrave House?
I shouldn't be surprised to see you all here, I suppose. You hear news of some horrible monster that's plaguing London and decide to stick your noses into things that are best left to the Queen's Police.
The Queen's Police doesn't seem to be doing a very good job.
Yes, if we left everything to you, nothing would get done.
Ladies, please do not force me to escort you off the premises.
I'd like to see you try.
Ina just crosses her arms. She is unfazed.
Oh, fellows, I do believe I have 2 disturbers of the peace that I would love for you to see out. And coming down the promenade are 2 men also wearing tweed coats that have very intimidating looking truncheons at their side.
You'd really beat 2 innocent women simply out enjoying a beautiful day in the gardens? How monstrous.
Madam, I may not know exactly who you are, but if you're working for Hargrave House, I assure you, neither of the 2 of you are innocent.
Can I use, in this situation, Curse of the Deep?
Let's read it.
Curse of the Deep says, when you lash out at someone threatening you or your allies, invoke the magic of your kin and roll with sensitivity. On a 10+, choose 2 from the list below. On a 7 to 9, choose 1. And one of these includes, they are overwhelmed with fear and flee.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
With the water at her back? Are you come on.
Okay, Miss Douglas, please roll Curse of the Deep. I'm not going to give you disadvantage on this for Defiant because the rules of this move do say when you lash out at someone. So I do think that your defiant nature is actually playing into this right now.
Maisie wades through the water up to the shore where she still has like her feet in the water. She looks at this collection of men who are all trying to tell her what to do and just goes, I'd think it'd be best if you all left immediately. And now we roll. Lord almighty, I'm scared. It's fine. Fuck. It's a 6. Oh, wait. I roll with sensitivity. I add 1. 7!
All right. So on a 7 to 9, choose 1. You have advantage on your next roll. They are overwhelmed with fear and flee. They refuse to harm someone of your choosing, including yourself, or they gain a deep fear regarding bodies of water.
I do think in order to handle all of it, I do need to choose they are overwhelmed with fear and flee.
Miss Douglas, tell me what this looks like.
The water at her ankles sort of starts to like roil and bubble a little bit, and Maisie's eyes go like completely black the way that Seal's eyes look, and she slowly makes eye contact with each of these policemen, particularly Detective Inspector Pettigrew. And in this voice that carries like that rumbling, echoey sound of like underwater, she looks at him and dead in the eyes and just says, I said, go now.
Shadows in the Smoke is a Kitten Marlowe production. This episode was edited and produced by Kim Dalton and featured a theme song by Jake Pierle. You can find out more about us by visiting kittenmarlowe.com, signing up for our newsletter, or following us on socials. For Discord access, an exclusive behind-the-scenes show, and more, visit patreon.com/kittenmarlowe and join Phoebe Siders, Tatterpig Addict, Zarg, and Lucy Allen in supporting artist-driven storytelling. Thanks for listening.